So here's one way you can affect the number of rows in a grid from the UX and have it dependent on whether you're working with a mobile device or not. So here we've got a UX. I've got a panel layout, panel card. And I've just got a header in here, and here's my embedded grid. And I think that's set to 10 rows by default in the grid. Let's go to properties. What we're going to use is the responsive layout settings. Now, because we're dealing with a grid, I think things get a little complicated because the responsive layout doesn't quite work as expected, and I think it's just because there's a bit of a delay in getting at the grid and having it rendered. But anyway, so what I'm going to do, so I'm going to go and grab something from this first. All right, so what we want to do, never mind the desktop rule. I'll delete that. Yep, I'll delete that. Never mind the desktop rule. I'm going to delete both of these. Okay, so everything's gone. We're going to add a rule. We're going to say check is mobile. That's our rule name. And our expression is just simply going to be true. Now, we've got some fields down here we can test against as device mobile, for example. So here's an interesting one. And I'll just tell you why we're doing this. So we could say device is mobile equals true. So this rule will fire if is mobile is true, but it won't fire if mobile is not true. But we want this rule to fire every single time. So what we do is we just simply set the rule to true. Now this rule is going to fire every time this UX runs, which is exactly what we want it to do. And then we're going to get into its JavaScript. And what we're going to do is set up a namespace object, or property rather, a namespace property. So it's dialog.object, so that's our dialog object namespace. Underbar is mobile, and that can be named to anything. That's just my name. And this is this is adding a property to our dialog object, which is important. You don't want to go around setting global variables at this point. You want to set up a property on the object itself, on the dialog itself. So what we're going to say here is we're going to go and grab the value of device.isMobile, which is going to be true or false, whether you're on a mobile or not. And we're going to set it into this property here. So this rule is going to fire every single time. We're going to have our property that we can check, and now we're going to go to client-side controls on render complete. So when the UX is rendered and the grid is rendered, what we're going to do, never mind the set timeout for now, just concentrate on this part right here, this part in the middle. So I'm going to go and grab this property that I've already set up. So the UX fires, that rule gets executed, is mobile is set either false, true or false. Now what I could do is well, no, I'm just going to do that just to make it simple. So var is mobile, and I'm going to grab this property, the value of that property. Then I'm going to say if is mobile, so if it's true, then I'm going to go and grab the child object, which is our grid, okay? And then I'm going to test to make sure I've got it. And then I'm going to say, then I can set properties because I've got the child object. I can do stuff to it. So I can execute this method on my child object, on my grid object, called set rows per page, and I'm going to set it to 4 if it's mobile. Else it's mobile is false. So again, we're going to go and grab the child object, and I'm going to set the number of rows to 6. Now, because we're dealing with a grid, not everything's quite there right away. So we have to wrap it in this set timeout function. We have to give it just over half a second to all finish settling down before anything executes. So now, what we're going to do is go and run this. There's my grid, and it gets set to 6 records because I'm not mobile. And so that's how you get that done. It's one way. You can play around with the responsive layout if you want to here, and see if you can get this to execute directly. But I didn't have much luck doing that. You should be able to execute this code, the JavaScript code in here, but it executes too fast. It executes faster than the UX and the grid is all ready to go. So it executes before anything else happens, because when we're dealing with JavaScript and client, everything's like instantaneous. It happens really quick. Anyway, that's one way to get it done. I hope that helps. Thanks.